on inclusiveness of that process, and especially on synergy within the civil society and state institutions. I want to remind you all, but a lot of you know, that all of us who are now working in Serbian European Integration Office and a negotiating team are actually somebody who is really having a good record of years spent in civil society. So what we did up to now, actually we provided the possibility for civil society to participate and to follow explanatory screenings, and even to pose the question in real time during the web streams. When it comes to bilateral screenings, we provided the debriefs, which are conducted by head of the negotiating groups and head of the negotiating team. As for the consultation for negotiating possession, you know that we were also open to the recommendations of civil society when it comes to negotiating position for the Chapter 32. And in cooperation with the National Parliament, we are almost every day in contact with the people who are active in the convent and who are actually formulating the recommendation of civil society, which comes to us, and we take a good consideration what civil society think about our thoughts, our papers, our documents, our procedures of adoption of those documents. I will also mention one more thing. This is a report which was actually written by the Office of the Government for the Cooperation for Civil Society, which is also a third very important actor in our process and our partner within the state administration. And they are also cooperating every day with us in organizing actually all public calls for explanatory screenings for civil society. They provided us with a report on the role of civil society in the negotiating process, and also the results of those cooperation of the state administration and civil society. This report is also publicly available, and it was sent also to Brussels, and I have to tell you that European Commission well assessed our mutual cooperation up to date. At the end of my short introduction, because I would like for us to talk more about your and our experience in the process, is that I would invite you to be as active as you think, because I think that Serbian European Integration Office and negotiating team, and also the Line Ministry every day more and more are showing openness to cooperation. When I think cooperation, I don't think that you should be active also in the process of formulation and adoption of the document which will present our position in Brussels. I think that you should also help us to implement what we actually promised during the negotiating position, to help us to promote with what we promised in Brussels, and to help us implement all these values and standards, especially on local level. Now I'm open to your questions and to the discussion, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sanja. The floor is yours. There are some questions sent by email yesterday, and it's related with EU funding, and it was question why. Unfortunately, we have no representative of EU delegation here, but it's question related by why the small NGOs are not eligible to receive grants. So, are there any here who sent this before or not? No. Any question? Maybe we have some question from Sorry, please, Miki.
Milorad Bjeladic of the Belgrade Open School. I will have opportunity to have my presentation and after the break, but I will use opportunity to ask our colleagues and friends from the governmental side about availability of information, documents produced in the negotiation process. So where are we now with this issue, and what and maybe they can comment also the European Commission attitude toward this issue, or member states' attitude, because we don't negotiate only with the Commission but also with the 28 member states. So that's one of big issues which was raised by several projects from the civil society side, which are simultaneously going on at the moment in Serbia. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And going to your question, I don't want to play advocacy for the European Commission, but I would just like to draw your attention that there are no small or big or medium civil society organizations. There are good projects that can be supported, obviously. I guess that not everyone's experience in dealing with the sometimes cumbersome procedural issues when it comes to the application to the EU resources is not always the most positive. But I have to tell you, and I have to stress that there is a will, and there are mechanisms, and there is certainly an openness on behalf of the EU delegation here in Serbia to support civil society organizations and to engage in supporting their efforts to communicate EU integration process closer to the citizens and to explain why is it important, why is it so crucial to undergo these, sometimes, as I said in my introductory intervention, extremely painful measures. To Milorad's question, yes, we are closely working together, the accession negotiating team of Ms. Miščević and the European Integration Office, to do our best to make sure that all the relevant documents are accessible, and all the documents which are, I would say, of the biggest interest to the public can be found on the websites of the aligned ministries, which are heading these 35 negotiating groups. Further to that, we are jointly working, and Ivana is here, who is dealing directly with that. We are working on the establishment of the specialized website for the EU negotiations. This is not going to be a website with the nice, illustrations and appealing to the public, although that kind of communication is necessary. But this is going to be a very straightforward, very, I would say, Spartan way of communication for those who are really interested into the nitty-gritty of the process. And we believe that that approach will enable not only National Convent and those civil society organizations which are gathering under the auspice of the National Convent, because, mind you, we have other civil society organizations which are not part of the National Convent and who decided to follow the monitor program on their own, which is also legitimate, and they have all rights to do that. So this website will be exactly designed to support them and to help them to be directly involved and regularly informed on the latest developments when it comes sometimes to these very technical issues which are not easy sometimes to communicate to broader public. When it comes to the European Commission position and member states, I have to tell you that according to the acquis and to the national legislation, we are engaged in negotiations of an international agreement, and as such, obviously, it falls under the constraints sometimes of the acquis and of the national legislation. And obviously, this is a process between the government, who is negotiating on behalf of all Serbian citizens, and the European Commission, which negotiates on behalf of all 28 member states. So there are there are many, I would say, actors which are involved, and this project sometimes requires a certain confidentiality, if you wish, in exchange of, especially negotiating positions. When I'm saying confidentiality, I'm not referring to secrecy. This is not a secret. But before the submission of our negotiating position to the partners who are going to decide on that position, obviously this is a confidential instrument. This is a confidential document. Once we open accession talks on particular chapter, and at this stage, as Sanja said, this is a chapter 32. Obviously, negotiating position will become public, and everybody will have an insight into what is written in there. But in order to enable civil society and broader society to be engaged in the accession process, as I pointed out in my opening statement, we have left the doors open for direct participation of civil society organizations in preparation of these accession, or rather negotiating positions. And obviously in monitoring through National Convent and through engagement of civil society organizations with the National Parliament, because once again, I'm sorry that we are missing our colleague from the Parliament, but according to the resolution of the National Parliament on the role of the Parliament in the process of the EU accession, and especially in the accession talks, the Parliament, or rather the European Integration Committee, will have to consult the public on the proposals coming from the government in the process of adoption of the negotiating position. So there are numerous doors open, and obviously we are at the very beginning, and I hope that we are going to prove that all these very positive feedbacks that we have from the European Commission and from member states are going to prove right, that Serbia's approach towards the EU accession negotiations and the role of the civil society, the role of the Parliament, is going to prove as a positive example, positive model, I would say.
I will just add a few more words. First of all, I want to inform you that we are finalizing the internet sites of negotiating teams, so then you will have a possibility to have all relevant documents in the process of negotiation, which we can put on the public eye on one place. So it will be easier for you to inform yourself. We plan to launch officially this site very soon, but I'm asking for more patience, a little bit more patience from your side, and then you will have better information from our part. Secondly, I want to tell you that all reports are also available on the site of our mission to the EU in Brussels. Thirdly, I want to invite you to be more curious and to go on the sites of our neighboring countries, our neighbors who are who've passed the process of negotiations, and to look into their documents, which will be your guidelines of what is expected from us in the future. And also, when you read the report, actually outcome of screening, and when you can see what European Commission with all member states agreed and assessed what are the further steps in the process of reform, then you can have a good idea what our steps or negotiating positions should be in the future. So there are ways and possibilities for you to find out what is at stake in each and every chapter, And you have to understand that sometimes really we are limited, not because we are hiding something from the Serbian public, but we are really obliged to follow the rules of privileged communication with the European Commission. Whatever we can make public, we make public. At the stage when we can make public, we will make public each and every document for sure. Thank you.
If I can add something about that confidential issues about that, as a person and organization who are coordinating one of the national convent groups that we have had a meeting. It's about chapter about public procurement. And we, in our conclusions, just mentioned that it's not that there are no reasons to have confidential mark on public procurement reports or positions adopted by government. We are still waiting for government response. I'm pretty sure that it's not up to those two agencies or offices. It's understandable that some, for some reasons, some parts have to be confidential, but not all, and it is some kind what NGOs ask government to remove that mark. I hope that it will be soon removed, and then the Serbian citizens through the civil society organizations will be able to have full information about not all but majority of chapters in negotiation process. Also, we hear what you do inside of country. Can you share with us, are there any interesting things or any topics that we have to be focused on other side? Because yes, we want to keep our side of the door open and unlock, and what other side, the EU side, expecting from us?
Thank you, Alexander. This is an excellent question, and it is extremely closely connected to what we were discussed earlier. But just to close the perhaps chapter on the confidentiality, just to ask you to put yourself in the position that you are a negotiator, and you're negotiating with 28 member states and the European Commission, and you present your negotiating position before you send it to Brussels. I think that would be odd. I mean, it would be odd for the member states to read your negotiating position before they receive it through the official channels, through the European Commission. And the only reason why this communication is such, sometimes very technocratic, very bureaucratic, is the procedural issues which are connected to the accession talks. So once again, I need to stress that there is no secrecy. There is just, as Sanja put it very nicely, privileged communication up to a certain point. And before that, obviously the civil society will be always an integral part of preparation of negotiating positions. So you will be aware perfectly on what is going to be written in these papers, especially because the implementation on everything that we are negotiating will depend on you, on other civil society organizations, business community for sure, and other business associations, local self-government associations, and other actors. But coming back to your second question, and this is the outside communication, this is something which is going to be of the utmost importance for the continuation of the enlargement process in general, because we are facing, and this is something that I would like to offer to our colleagues who are following us in the EU and Albania, we are facing, according to my opinion, to a very dangerous narrative on the enlargement fatigue. And I strongly believe that this is a false argument, and I strongly believe that we need to do more in order to explain to the citizens of the EU that the Western Balkan countries in its territory is pretty much the same as Romanian territory is, that a number of inhabitants who are living in the Western Balkan countries are less than Romania. So we are not talking about the Big Bang enlargement to the Western Balkans. Just refer to your geographical maps. This is not even an enlargement. This is just a completion of what should be an area of peace, stability, and rule of law from the north to the south, from the west to the east. Based on the same values, and this is why I especially cherish this project like this, and this one obviously especially because you are keeping the door open, as your title is of the project, and the doors needs to be remained open in order to show citizens that all those who are successful in producing the reforms and adjusting to the European Union standards in the whole range of issues, ranging from the minority rights to the rule of law in general, to agriculture, protection of the environment, are the values that needs to be shared by the citizens of the Western Balkan countries, and that by producing these reforms each and every day, we are coming closer to the EU, and we shouldn't be discouraged by the notion that, obviously, as Jean-Claude Juncker, the President of the European Commission, stated, in the next 5 years there will be no enlargement. This should not be an alibi. This should be an additional stimulus for everybody in the region to roll up the sleeves and to show that in this next 5 years we are capable of preparing ourselves, that in 5+1 year, the year that follows this 5-year period, we will be closely knocking on the door of the European Union. And by the way, Serbia's negotiating position that was submitted on the first intergovernmental conference held in January this year is clearly stating that Serbia will need exactly 5 years to prepare itself for the EU accession. We said that by the end of 2018, which is that back then was in a 5 years time, Serbia will be ready to practice all the rights and to assume all the obligations coming from stemming from the EU membership. That doesn't mean that this is the year of our actual accession to the EU, but this is the goal that we put to ourselves. This is our homework, to finalize all the accession-driven reforms by the end of 2018. So we were very rational in projecting how things should evolve, and once again stressing that +1 after 5, that should be the year when all the countries in the region should show that they are prepared to assume much bigger responsibility and to knock on the door of the European Union.
I just want to also add something. I know that everybody is interested in what is the negotiating position of Serbia for each and every chapter, and believe me that we are doing what we can, and some of you, if anyone was participating during the process of adoption and process of consultation for negotiating position for Chapter 32, you all know that we provided the public with something which is called executive summary of our negotiating position, which is actually highlights of what negotiating position is all about. This is what we can do. But also I want to say to you, remember the day of the first intergovernmental conference, when everybody was asking how the negotiating framework looks like. And we waited for the day of for the intergovernmental conference to see the text, and the European Commission made public on that day our negotiating framework. This is the same rule and procedure we have to follow. So in the meantime, we will every time provide executive summary which will follow our negotiating position, which will give you the hints and flavor of what is written in the negotiating position.
Thank you. Do you have any question, or I can keep my debate? Please introduce yourself.
I wanted to ask you.
Just wait a second for mic because of.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. I wanted to ask you how much all three churches are involved in preparing negotiation positions. I mean, religion is very much part of civil society. It reflects its religion influence in civil society is very much alive. So how much of their position or their thinking you are taking in account to prepare your position for negotiations?
That's a very interesting question, and thank you for raising it. Obviously, the religion is a part of the European identity, and I'm not saying that exclusively goes to the Christian tradition, but one of the values upon which the whole project was started was drawing some of the values coming from the tradition, I would say, of the religion, and since the religion plays a significant part of our everyday life, obviously there is a need to enhance perhaps even communication with the religious communities and to engage them somehow into this process. Well, we did started back in 2004 and 5. We did have a couple of roundtables with representatives of the religious organizations in Serbia, traditional ones, and they have proven to be extremely valuable because obviously, as I said, religion is playing the significant part of our everyday lives and has an influence on the public opinion, and it is important to inform them on properly on how does the process evolve and what is going to bring to the society. And the churches can be a disseminator, I would say, of the ideas and values upon which the EU itself has been established upon. But since we are living in a society which is what is the word? Secular, yeah. And since the Constitution positions the executive power into the work of the government, obviously the government is the one who is at the end of the day taking responsibility on each and every negotiating position. Obviously, this public debate with all the relevant stakeholders brings additional legitimacy, as I was pointing out in my previous intervention. I would like to open the very, I would say, open and sincere dialogue with the churches, because, as I said, they can be very constructive, and they have played a very important role in societies of the countries that were previously acceding to the EU, especially in Poland, but as well as in some other previously acceding countries. And it is interesting in the case of Poland. I don't know whether our Polish colleagues are included in this project or they're not with us, but there was a sort of a evolution of the position of the church towards the Polish membership into the EU, and as the dialogue between the government and the church evolved, the church was much more leaning towards the more positive attitude towards the Polish EU membership. So you are right. This is an important part of the society, and obviously it needs to be in some way consulted and included.
Thank you. because of Mr. Mestorovic have to run, I would like to ask our friends from Sofia or Tirana, do you have any question for our morning guests?
No, at the moment it's very interesting to hear your perspective, and as the honored speaker said before, it is a very good lesson to follow your steps and to follow the process since you've been earlier in the negotiation process. So later on, I will join altogether with the European Movement Executive Director for Albania, and maybe there will be developed some other questions. It's a very, very interesting debate. Thank you.
Petko, do you have any question? Are you here? I guess there are no questions from Bulgaria now. We'll have their presentation, the second part. Any question from Belgrade? So it's a very first time that we done much earlier. It's because of we have one guest less. So Miki, you have comments? Not? Okay, then thank you, Mr. Mestorovic. But I have to raise a few questions more. If you have time, you can. First, it's coming back to that, for my point of view, very important topic, that it's confidential of negotiation position. As I know, the Serbian government decided to keep all positions confidential until the end of the process of negotiation. No. It's changing?
That's absolutely not.
It's changed now?
True. No. Each and every negotiating position will be available to the public at the moment of the opening of the accession talks on the particular chapter. That means that if we open chapter that we hope, chapter 32 in December this year, I think the date could be around 17. The very day you will be able to see the negotiating position.
So that means that negotiation position is sent to Brussels already?
Yes.
And our future partners, all EU countries now have that position?
Yes, because it is still, this is due to the process of adoption of the so-called common position of the EU.
So
they need to deliberate on our proposal, and they're still deliberating till they reach the decision to invite Serbia to open this particular chapter. So this is the reason, the only reason that this is at this moment confidential. It would be very undiplomatic, unprocedural to read about the negotiating position of Republic of Serbia in Danish newspaper or I don't know, UK newspaper, while the member states have still not deliberated the common position on this paper. And this is the exclusive reason, and there is no secrecy, as I said.
So I think that it is good example, and I want just to raise another question here, and this question. It's question about mutual trust between Serbian government and Serbian civil society organizations, and it should be a problem. And thanks that governments or former government and now present governments are smart to keep you on positions that you are in both of institutions that try to build up that mutual trust, having in mind the past cooperation or not cooperation among governments and civil society, and having in mind that there are some lack of public hearing or public involving of publicity or citizens in adoption of laws, or there are some of procedures that are shorted by governments. What do you think, except that they keep you as a persons, as persons who are sensitive of civil society organizations, and you know how to communicate with us? What ministries or government can do more to build up their trust? And I will ask some of you here what we as a civil society organizations can do to build up that trust.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words. I will transfer it back to the office because yeah, the team over there is working very hard. But we are working as a very good team together with our minister, Ms. Joksimovic, who is a leading political leader of the whole process, and her energy that she invests means a lot to us and opens the doors to us who are dealing with perhaps sometimes more technical issues as well. The same goes with the team of Ms. Miščević, as you heard from Sanja. The team consists of majority of people who used to work with the office, and we are really working as a team, and this is extremely important for this mutual trust that you have mentioned. But if you have listened carefully what I was saying at the beginning, the main message is that this transparency and inclusiveness, the major principles upon which we are trying to develop the mechanisms for inclusion and for participation of the civil society, is the basis of the partnership. And you can't have the partnership between the stakeholders in any process if there is a lack of mutual trust. And I think that these exercises, especially the ones that Sanja was mentioning on preparation of these action plans, very technical documents of the measures, of the activities in the area of rule of law, are considerably contributing to a further establishment of this mutual trust. I have to tell you that this is a very positive example, and this is what you're going to hear if you talk to the people in Brussels, as well as if you talk to people here. I guess among us we have people who are contributing to preparation of these action plans, and this is an extremely serious way forward in a thinking of I would say state administration. Nowadays it's not anymore the question, you know, whether civil society should participate or not, but the question is when and how to include them. And I'm very happy to share with you that the latest addendums to the rules of procedure of the governments are going to be very precise on the necessity on proper preparation of legislative acts, which are going to make sure that the public debates are a constituent part of this process. So we are moving into the direction of the I would say a very well structured and more transparent legislative process that should enable us to cut down this practice that was present. And I have a significant experience in working for the government, that it was part of all the previous governments, and this is this urgent procedure sometimes being introduced. But we took very seriously, we took foundings coming from the European Commission's progress report this year, and we recognize that as an issue where we can work more. And as I said, the latest developments when it comes to the addendums of the rules of procedure of the government will pay particular attention to public debates and addressing this issue in the more precise way in order to sustain this mutual trust.
Thank you. Ms. Mešanović, do you have any comments?
No, I don't.
So what do you think, what we as a civil society can do? Any comments? or we can make a short break. We have enough time now. Let's make 30 minutes break, and then we'll continue with Milorad, and I hope that Ivan will come, and then we can we'll have our partners from Albania, and I hope Brussels. I didn't receive any information from them, and from Bulgaria, their presentation, and then we can continue. Thank you. 30 minutes break.